Welcome you here to Shop Talk on RaceOnTexas.com. The driver of the Cody Main Motorsports, LCC Trucking, Jones Septic Systems, Henry's Auto Salvage, S&S Fishing and Rental, P-Row Consulting, number 21 best engine-powered Outlaw Racing Chassis, a long-time mainstay around the Ark-La-Tex and stock car divisions between pure stocks down to Sabine Motor Speedway back in the early 2000s to now a factory stock guru. And we can call him that because he's won at every single track around the Ark-La-Tex. He's certainly one of the more highly respected drivers, and he's a frequent flyer to victory lane. It's Bubba Jones out of Provençal, Louisiana. Bubba, how we doing this evening, brother?
Good, man. How you doing?
Good, man. I know you're getting ready to get your 2021. Maybe that's a good omen for the 21 car. Get your season underway. I believe you'll be heading to RPM Speedway, where 1 year ago to this particular weekend, I believe it was March the 9th, you scored a victory over there against a tough field of cars. Would anything less than going back to RPM Speedway over in Crandall this weekend be a disappointment for you? I know you go to every race to win, but you got to be pretty excited about getting back over RPM to maybe defend that victory from a year ago.
Yeah, I'm excited to go back. It's a fun place to race over there, and it's always tough competition. And anytime you can get a win over there, or even run up close to the front, you're doing good.
Yeah, it's always an interesting mix, and of course, you'll see a lot of guys like Neil Kemp, who won the 10,000 at Boot Hill last year, heading over there this weekend. I believe Cody Myers, a lot of our Ark-La-Tex guys go over there, but you got Chris Davis, Jason Cook. You got a bunch of good guys over there, so I mean, it's just as tough over there as it is in the Ark-La-Tex. I'm sure you would agree with that assessment.
Oh, no doubt. And then you add all the Ark-La-Tex guys going over there, it just makes it 10 times tougher.
What is RPM Speedway like? Is it anything like that you race around here? I mean, it doesn't seem as comparable to anywhere that we race around the Ark-La-Tex.
No, it's nothing like we got around here. It's different. It's different dirt. It goes from hooked up, hammer down to like racing on ice in no time. So you don't never really know.
Of course, the factory stock division. We'll get in kind of the origin and. Like I said on the intro there, you spent a lot of time in this class. You had a brief stint in the limited modified class, and we'll talk about that here in just a few moments as well. You had a pretty good short stint of success in it in 2019, I might add. But what are you most looking forward to in this 2021 season? I know you're back in a best engine outlaw race car, one of Justin Whitehead's chassis. I know you spent a couple years in the express race car, but like I told the folks when we introduced you here, is you're always a frequent flyer. You're always going to be considered a threat. But what are you most excited about this year, Bubba?
You're really just getting back to racing. It's been a long off season.
I can't tell you how. There were several times last year I bumped into you in the pits, man, whether it be in the middle of a race night or after the races, where you're like, man, Zach, I got a really good car. You feel like you just weren't maybe getting the good out of it because you just had so much bad luck. When you look back at your 2020 season, do you assess it as a great average season, above average season? I mean, I know you picked up 6 or 7 wins last year for Cody Main, and the deal that you formed alliance there had Kelly Lockheed as a teammate. But how would you judge your 2020 season?
I felt like it was a good season. I feel like we left a lot on the table, a lot of races. We started way back, and I felt like I had the best car on the track, but ended up 4th or 5th, and just didn't capitalize when we should have, but like I say, we did have, I think, 6 wins, and they was all quality wins, but I felt like we left a lot on the table too.
Does that light a fire in you for this year?
It does. We ain't got no excuses this year. We got a new car, new everything, so got to get it done.
You're still going to be driving for Cody Main this year?
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about how that relationship kind of began. I know that Jeff Bates and several other guys have driven for Cody. I know that I kind of can remember and rehash whenever you guys had kind of, I won't say formed an alliance, but kind of became friends at the King of the Hill several years ago in the pits, and just kind of were shooting the shit a little bit. And cool guy, and seemed like y'all both have a similar passion for racing, and pretty cool that you guys were able to come together and car owner, however you view it. I mean, guy fields a car for you. I'm sure that's a pretty cool relationship to have.
Yeah, I ain't gonna lie. I'm, anytime you kind of hesitant to drive for anybody because sometimes it don't work out. But me and Cody met and we just clicked, right off the bat, and I drove a few races for him at the end of think 2018, and then drove 2019, and then drove full time for him, last year. And he's just a good guy to drive for. He don't he pretty much just goes to the races and helps whatever you tell him, and don't that's about it. Don't really get uptight about a whole lot.
I think it also says a lot about you as a driver, but even our factory stock division as a whole, Bubba. Because if you think about it, there's guys like Joe Best who fill cars for Ricky Ingles, and obviously Jason Ingles has driven cars the last couple of years. Cody Myers. There's more than just you who fill cars for car owners. Like, guys get a lot of fulfillment and a lot of satisfaction for fielding these cars because we have 5,000 win races, 10,000 win races, and there's a lot of satisfaction, like I said, to come from that. Fielding a good driver like yourself, and that's it's kind of a he scratches your back and vice versa. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, he honestly, I've always wondered, why people just own cars and don't want to race them, but he seems to enjoy owning the car just as much I enjoy racing it. So it works out good. We both have a good time at the races, and like I say, it works out good.
There's a lot of time, man, that you've paid your dues in racing. A lot of folks know you come from the Manny, Louisiana area, I believe, where you reside now, if I'm not mistaken. You're from originally Provençal, but you grew up around Sabine Motor Speedway. That was your bread and butter, and still is. Folks know that you catch the 21 car on a Friday night and he's in the house. He's going to be a tough son of a bitch to beat. but,
Yeah.
but for real, that place, you love Manny, don't you?
Oh, I love it. We even try to make laps around it when it ain't open.
Absolutely. And off topic a little bit, another area track, Leesville 171 Speedway is reopening this year, and you've had a lot of laps there when Mr. Ben had the place several years ago. Are you excited about Leesville? I've seen, if I'm not mistaken, you made some hot laps out there in your car for this 2021 season a few weeks back.
Yeah, I'm excited to get back there. To race. I've raced there a bunch, and now that Heath Wilson's out of factory stock, I may get a win down there because I've finished second to him probably 50 times down there.
I think a lot of folks have, including my brother. He had a few seconds down at Leesville. But he was happy with those performances at the time because he was chasing that old car that he had for what it's worth. But so we'll kind of stay on this Manny topic for just a second. Of course, your brother Daniel, you guys 21, 23, you guys kind of run together, and Daniel spent some time out of the cockpit, and you did too, really, the last couple years, and we'll dive into that a little bit here in just a second. But when were you introduced to racing, and why Manny, and who kind of got you and brought you into the sport?
My uncle used to race, and I kind of used to go to the track with them on the weekends, and just ended up buying a car and fell in love with it.
Randy Broadway?
Yep.
Yeah, I thought I'd remember that conversation we had several years ago. So do you remember, like, maybe your first memory at the track, or what age you were whenever you went? When did you realize that, damn, it'd be pretty cool to wheel one of these things one day?
Man, I really don't remember, much back then, just going and watching. And I remember I always wanted to pack the track, and they never would let me. So when I got old enough, I bought my own car to pack the track in.
Hell yeah. So why the number 21? And I actually was looking at a picture. I always think it's interesting to find out the origin, or the meaning behind why a racer chooses the number that they have. I realize your dad's birthday is on the 21st. We were just talking about that off mic a few minutes ago. I'm not sure that that's the reason. Rest in peace to your father, by the way. I know it's been about a year. It's been about a year since this COVID stuff hit, Bubba. So, thoughts and prayers still to your family. I don't just say that, man. I know your father meant a hell of a lot to you, my friend. So I know that's been on your mind a lot lately, I'm sure.
Yeah, it ain't ain't the same without him, and I appreciate the kind words.
Absolutely. So why the 21?
Well, 21 is that's how old I was when I started racing.
That's interesting. So
I just kind of stuck with it.
So why B21 this year?
Because there's quite a few 21s when we go to a track, and then they want you to put a duct tape X or a duct tape something.
Yeah.
Because there's multiple 21s, so I just threw the B in front of it.
Heard that.
I used to be 21J,
and
I got away from that, and then so now B21.
Yep, B21. Why not? I mean, 'cause everybody knows you like to enjoy a cold beverage, so you know you got to be 21 to to
That's
enjoy one
right.
of those after the races anyway. But
That's right. And I may put a CLU in front of the B&B Club 21.
hey, why not? I mean, the friendly banter and the back and the jazz back and forth. I think you could officially seal that whole deal with Neil Kemp if you go out and you win the 10,000 this year at Boot Hill and take his lunch money.
Well, before the year started last year, he's number 20, and he said that 2021 was his year, and come to find out, he wasn't lying because he had an awesome year. So I told him this year that 2021 was my year. So
Mm-hmm.
we'll see.
It very well may could be, and my brother, if he'd have been racing last year, I told him maybe he just wasn't probably the 20 where the cards were going to fall where they may for him, but
But you never know.
you never know. Neil did have a standout year last year. I mean, when you look at it, man, he won at 7 different tracks. He ended up with 14 wins overall. I mean, the dude had a stellar year, didn't he?
He did. He really did.
Absolutely. Are you running his shocks on your car or no?
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah. Man, it's pretty impressive. We'll talk about Neil for just a second because I'm sure he can remind. I don't say Neil reminds you. I'm sorry, reminds you of himself. Brother, I got tongue tied. I'll edit that for what it's worth. But I mean, Neil's just a everyday guy, right? Like he do it yourself. Like you own your own business. Well, Neil started this shock company right out of his own house, and like he has got customers out the wazoo, man. Like it's pretty impressive how in touch and just on tap he's been with this shock program. I mean, would you agree with that? I mean, it's been pretty impressive what he's been able to do. I don't know how he sustains it and is able to keep his head above water.
Oh, I would agree. He sends me pictures and stuff with all the stuff he's got going on. I'm like, Lord have mercy, you got a mess. It just man, but he works hard and works for everything he's got, and like I look up to him. That ain't nothing gave to him.
Yeah,
He's
absolutely.
went out and got it, and he's one of the top drivers in our class now.
And that's perfectly a segue to what I was trying to really kind of mention a moment ago was that you and Neil actually remind me a lot of one another. Remember back in 2012, Whiteheaded won the Classic at that time for the third time. Okay, he's now won at 8, which is unbelievable. We'll talk about
Yeah.
that reign of dominance in just a second because it seems like we have to reassess this every year because it has not stopped yet, Bubba. By the way, and I'm sure
No,
you're very well aware of this.
and I don't think it is.
Yeah. But he makes us all proud in the IMC mob. We'll talk about Justin in just a second because honestly, he's deserving of a few words from his counterparts because the dude is honestly he's an absolute assassin behind the wheel of a race car and he deserves to have credit when credit's due, right? So,
I agree.
but Neil Kemp and you are similar in my eyes anyway, like from an announcer's standpoint. So I remember you come to the Cajun Classic back in 2012 and you were sitting in the stands, Bubba. Me and you've had this conversation before, and you said, Zach Clark. And I knew you because I'd been down to Manny and announced a few races. But you told me, you called me out. I was standing in the crowd announcing the races, and you said, "I'm coming and I'm gonna win the Classic next year." You didn't come and win the Classic, but you did make the race in 2013. You finished 6th in that race 3 times, and you have an 11th place finish. You haven't actually won the Classic, but I will say that you've come and you made your presence felt. So you won at Ark-La-Tex Speedway 6 times in your career, several times at a limited modified. You've won at every single track around the Ark-La-Tex. I think Bubba Jones, I'll speak for you in third person. It was a plan of yours to come up here and make your presence felt, and I think that's something you have to be proud of. And Neil Kemp as well. He's a guy from, down in Arkansas. He was running the street stock division, but man, he really committed to this factory stock deal. And similar to you, pure stock to factory stock. And you guys have both had a lot of success and a similar kind of transition. I'm sure you would agree with that.
I agree. Which I was the night I told you I was gonna win the Classic. I was drunk. So,
Yeah. I know you were.
but I'm still going to win it though. I still stand by that.
Absolutely.
I didn't say what year.
Is that the race that you still most want to win? Is it the prestige of the Cajun Classic? I know that it doesn't pay quite as much. Or has the King of the Hill kind of trumped the Cajun Classic? And where do you kind of stand on our crown jewels?
I don't know. The Classic is where it all started. So that means that's still top of the list. In which King of the Hill ain't. I mean, both of them is be something else to win.
Absolutely.
Ark-La-Tex is just so fun to race on, man. It don't really matter what you're racing for. It's just fun to be there.
I was going to ask you this in a moment, but I'll ask you now. If you were, and I'm sure this will probably be your answer, it may be very well may be Ark-La-Tex Speedway, Gene Borders racetrack up in Vivian. For those of you who don't know, if they don't, they're under a rock. But is that your favorite racetrack to race on? Whenever the track's really good and racy, I mean, if you had to choose any of the tracks in the Ark-La-Tex to travel to, you could only race one for the rest of your life. Would Ark-La-Tex be the choice, or would it be Manny?
Architects, no doubt.
Absolutely. Is it because how racy it is any given night, or is it just because of the competition, or is it the actual racing service, the on-track product?
It's the racing surface. It's never some of these tracks you go to, and I know they can't help it, but it's one lane right around the bottom, and that's not fun. Like Architects is always wide, and it's always raceable. Uh, I think the only time I've ever seen it one lane was a day race we had up there
Mm-hmm.
4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Not even been longer than that, and it was still fun then.
Right. It makes you wonder how in the hell Gene does it, right? Because, I mean, he doesn't run, but everybody knows Gene runs maybe 5, 6, 7 races a year. Hell, I think he ran 4 year before last. But you know that every time he opens the door, it's going to be, for the most part, it's going to be smooth, and you're going to have a few different lanes to choose from.
Yeah, and I mean we've raced up there before, and like you're thinking in hot laps, what was Gene thinking? This track's gonna be shit, and then here comes the feature, and it's 3 and 4 wide the whole race. Like I'm like, well, he did it again.
One of the best racetracks I've ever seen Gene Border prepare was the day race of the Doug Murphy Memorial. I believe it was the year that Jeremy Payne won, Jeff Larry got second, and Kyle Plaisant came from 25th to 4th. It was like black ice from top to bottom, but it rained, man. It was a tumultuous rain. I mean, the pits were sloppier than it was bad, man. I mean, we really probably shouldn't have raced, but he was hell bent, bound, and determined, and it ended up being one of the best damn racetracks I've probably ever seen. And,
It was. I remember that.
yeah, and then you scratch your head like, man, this dude, he's a effing guru at this track prep, and I mean, it's pretty incredible.
It is. It's man, it's a fun place to race, and I've never been on nothing. Even you talk to late model guys that's been all over the United States.
Mm-hmm.
It probably don't rank on top of their list, but they still. I mean, it ranks up there with them. And they've been all over.
Well, I mean, I remember Scott Blomqvist, April 5th, 2014, Lucas Oil Late Models came there for the first time, and he and Ray Moore come down to it. I'm actually looking at it on my background on my desktop computer right now. It's one of my favorite pictures Rick Schrawley took, who's now the tour director of the Lucas Oil Late Model Dirt Series, of Ray Moore and Scott Blomqvist going at it on the final lap. They're door to door. Ray Moore couldn't lead the final 1.5 laps, but Scott Blomqvist said in his Victor Lane interview that, man, this was one of the funnest, raciest little joints, and I think up my win percentage at first tracks I ever visit at. It's just Scott, but he loved it too, and that's coming from the dirt track's dominator, right? It does, and at that time, between USMTS and Todd Staley, the Winter Nationals, Ark-La-Tex has gotten its flowers. I mean, let's be honest. Ark-La-Tex has received much national attention and praise, and well deservingly so. And I think kind of the track right now that's in the Ark-La-Tex, and even you're giving them a little bit of flowers, Bubba. I was pretty shocked to hear you say it, to give Boot Hill Speedway the kind of credibility that you had last year. Not saying that you have anything bad about Boot Hill. Maybe it's just kind of the bad luck you've had there, but you weren't necessarily, I'm going to say, I can't speak for you. What was kind of your deal with Boot Hill before last year? But you did come out and say, man, that may have been one of the funnest tracks I've raced on in a while, as racy as Boot Hill was last year.
Well, me and you've talked about this before. I used to, not publicly but privately, I used to talk bad about Boot Hill. I hated it. Probably one reason I hated it so much was because I sucked there. But ever since, I remember when Ricky Burke started promoting it,
Mm-hmm.
like the track started getting better and better, and now I you probably never thought you'd hear me say this, but it's probably number 2 on my list.
Yeah, and a
Like
lot of that.
Like I really look forward to going to Boot Hill. Now I used to dread.
My dad reminded me that whenever he was going to Boot Hill back when he was, young, in the 80s and the late '70s is that's the way Boot Hill is right now is the way that it was then, and he told me last year that it's kind of been resurrected for him in his own mind. So, and I think that's pretty badass, you know. And you got to give Tim Higgins much credit for that, man. And they've done a really great job out there.
No doubt. 'Cause what didn't he get by it when Ricky started promoting it?
Yeah, he did actually.
So both
I
of them,
believe.
when that happened, it really turned around. And
Mhm. Yeah, I've had the honor and the privilege to work for a bunch of different great promoters, you know, whether it be Jason Ingles, and we won't go into name a bunch of names, but even Billy Jack Bruchin did a good job there. You know, the Paynes had it for quite some time, and you know, I don't know all the legal ramifications and all that. It's really none of my business. You know, I was called to do a job there, and I was very fortunate and blessed to fill that position. And kind of disappointed I won't be back there this year. But you know, that's another conversation for another day. But I can't say anything but great things about what Tim Higgins and Danielle Higgins have done there, and Brian Frazier's doing a great job there as the promoter. And you know, I wish them nothing but great things, as that track will always be considered one of my homes. And I spent 13 years there on the microphone, and I look forward to visiting and seeing that place have much success in the future as well.
well, if you ain't gonna be there, we sure gonna miss you.
Well,
Well, it won't feel the same.
yeah. Well, you know, who knows? Maybe we can find a way to get back up in there. I got a lot of great memories there, but like I said, another conversation for another day. Do you have any race day superstitions? Like, what's a normal race day look like for Bubba Jones? I mean, do you have anything you eat? Like, I know it sounds kind of odd for me to ask, but Dak Prescott, you know, he's from Halton, Louisiana. Know him personally. He has to eat he eats spaghetti with ranch on it every game day. I mean, I don't know about you, but I do know some racers who have superstitions. Do you have any?
I don't have any superstitions. A normal race day looks like to me is just not having my stuff together, loading up at the last minute, hurrying up to the track. So I don't really have time to eat anything at all. So,
Do you feel like you would have more wins if you were a little bit more prepared? Nah.
oh, probably. But one problem I've always had is time. When you run a
Hmm.
business,
Right.
that's two jobs in itself, and then racing's another job.
Right.
And working pays a little better than racing, so you got to
Absolutely.
kind of put it first, and then go race.
Yep. And I know that that's kind of the family business. You know what you and your dad did there. You know what, since you were like 17, 18 years old,
Yeah.
the septic system business.
Yes, I was started when I was 17.
How hectic has that been lately with all the weather and stuff? The way it was going down here,
Oh, it's hectic every winter. Um,
but it's good.
we make it. That's all we
Yeah,
can do.
yeah. It's bad for a lot of other people, but I mean, you got to be there to fix the problem.
We paying a lot bill. That's
Yeah,
all we can
I
do.
heard that, brother. Yeah, I want to ask you a few of these kind of rapid fire questions. You've been around this sport for quite some time. And you'll hear Michael Rigsby with DirtOnDirt.com mention this about time, and that's one thing that personally irks me is, when you go to a Major League Baseball game, or if even you go to a Shreveport Mudbug game around, Shreveport Bossier City, and they say they're going to start at 7:05. Bubba, they start at 7:05, right?
Yep.
I was listening to the Bubba and I'm sorry, not Bubba, Derek Kessinger and Michael Rigsby talk about this, and it really, I mean, this is a conversation for anybody in the racing industry to be had. Realize it is a consistent issue for time. I mean, not necessarily about how late we're there, which is also an issue, but when it starts. Do you have any friends who say, "Hey, man, we'd like to come watch you race," but and you tell them, "Oh, well, it starts at 7," but they get there and it really it started till 8:45. You feel like the time it is an ongoing issue. You agree with that?
I agree with it. And honestly, I try to stay. It's not that hard for tracks to have their running order, what time they're going to start. I can understand you can't control the time that they finish, because you don't know what's going to happen during the night. But you can start on time, and you can, we've been to tracks before. You get there and uh, don't have no clue what the race order is,
Hmm.
and so we try. I just try to stay away from those type of places.
Absolutely. A young fledgling announcer, Zach Clark, back in 2008, 9, 10, I didn't really give a shit because, I mean, I could just go and go, but now I got to girlfriend with kids, and I mean, I'm not looking to be at the racetrack until 2, 3, 4 in the morning, which it can happen with large car counts and so on and so forth. But yeah, man, it really started taking a toll on me, especially this past year, man. It's like, but I mean, I guess it's a part of it. But and I ask you this: can we get rid of? Can we just transfer them all in the way they used to back in the day? Hey, man, guess what? If you didn't make it out of your heat race, and you're loading that son of a bitch up, and you're heading to the crib. Like, I mean, it sucks, but I mean, I guess and I can understand it. But man, 3 B mains every week. I mean, it can be so time consuming. And from my perspective, I mean, who gives a shit about my perspective from an announcer standpoint? It's a lot of more words and talking I have to do, but I love it, so I'm not really here to complain about it. But man, I have so many folks, like, I constantly try to explain to people when they come hot laps, like, what are hot laps? You know what I mean? A lot of places don't, and I'm not doing this patting myself on the back. There's not many announcers who, like myself, are going to be very thorough and explain to you what are hot laps. These are just a couple test and tune laps to allow these guys. But, man, the hot laps are time consuming. I'm in total order of just getting rid of hot laps. Like, get rid of them. We don't need them. Like, you guys know your shit's going to run, and if it don't run in the heat race, then sorry about your luck, right? Like, it really, and I know it has a lot to do with rolling the track in. Here I am going on a rant. But, dude, seriously, like, it's, there's just some things, man, that just, I don't know.
Honestly, I mean, hot laps it's pretty much like high-speed pack tracking.
Yeah, it is.
So I think you need them.
Yeah, I digress.
As far as track conditions. But I don't think you have to change anything. I think everybody just needs to go watch Ark-La-Tex and Jill run a show. And it don't matter how many B mains they have. It's it's always starts on time, and if you're not lined up for your heat race, then you can go enjoy the burritos.
Yeah,
because you're not racing.
I have said too, man. I have this inner clock in my head, and this goes back to the first year that I ever started announcing racing, because Ark-La-Tex Speedway was the first place I ever held a microphone, and I'll always be in debt, thankful to Leroy Montgomery and Gene Border for giving me that opportunity to get my announcing career started. But I never will get over the inner clock in my head when I go to any racetrack, and that's the any track I've ever been in the country. Jill Shannon's yelling at me to get my interview wrapped up and get the hell off the front straight. We got a race to run. You know what I mean? I mean, dude, the same way that she is with you guys. And look, she's the sweetest lady, but she is exactly what you need at every damn racetrack in this country. She is the hands down best in the business.
Yeah, no doubt. There ain't no doubt about it.
Yeah, she ain't here to toy around or dick around with any of you cats. But I mean, she's pretty cool for a Dallas Cowboys fan, isn't she?
Sometimes.
Yeah. Y'all give each other a little bit of hell over that, don't you?
Oh yeah, I love Miss Jill. She's but she does give me hell though.
She does. If she didn't, she wouldn't like you, right? So,
I wouldn't have it no other way.
That's right. I mentioned earlier, we'll wrap this up here pretty soon. We can just go off on a few things. And like I said, I apologize to some of you folks if I hurt your feelings out there about my insight, how I feel about time and things like that. But I also don't really care. But I mean, just being honest. But you spent the majority of your career, like we said, you raced the pure stocks. You had the treaded tire. They call them Superman tires where we're from up here. Before you come and get on this side of town, right? But you spent the majority of your racing career behind the wheel of stock cars and had much success. But in 2019, you saw that kind of short, yet very successful stint in that express chassis limited model. You won your very first ever start at Ark-La-Tex Speedway in a limited. And that was pretty damn impressive, dude. I mean, I think you were as shocked as I was when you were standing in victory lane that night in the interview. I mean,
I really was.
What kind of happened to that? I mean, didn't you crash that car or get into something and or is it the tire prep, or just kind of tell me what kind of evolved with the limited, because it didn't seem to be a very long tenure there.
I think when I got the limited, I think racing pure stock all those days on the Superman tires, like the limited was pretty much, same thing. So, I think that's why I had success at it, because I was so used to, that's why I grew up on, those tires and big motors and this and that, and it just fit me. And then when I started driving for Cody Main, I'd go to the track and we'd have both of them and just jumping in one car after another, and then it just, I wasn't enjoying the races. I didn't never get to talk to anybody, and so I had to get rid of one. So I decided to rid of the one I paid for
Where do you stand on?
and drive the free one.
Where do you kind of stand on? I mean, I know that this was more of a conversation, what, like 7 years ago, probably, but there were still quite a few guys. Jason Ford, and I know you guys have raced a lot door to door over the years. David Edwards, Daryl, who were really still about the groove tires on the stock cars, because that was kind of a deal down in Manny. But I also kind of love that too, like, and that's what I kind of liked about Manny. And then we kind of started mixing them together. We started mixing the factory on the asphalt pull off. But I mean, you officially sold. I'm sure at this point you are on the asphalt pull off, and I'm sure Dave and Daryl know all those guys are too. But I'm sure to some degree you kind of missed those old pure stock days, don't you?
I mean, kinda, but I like the asphalt pull offs because you know, racers ain't the most honest people in the world as far as it comes to motors. So it kind of takes the big motors out of the equation. It really don't. I mean, it kind of equals everything up.
Well,
That's what I like about them.
well, I don't mean to cut you off, but apparently they aren't very too forthright about tires either. I mean, that was a big conversation at the end of last year. I mean, from Chatham, the 15,000. I mean, Cody Myers, and Cody, I don't mean to throw you out here if you hear this, but he said he's having trouble breathing the next week because all the fumes that he breathed in out there racing on the Chatham Raceway in 75 laps from all the tire dope he breathed in out there. But
Yeah, that kind of got out of hand last year. It's like people found out about it, and it was like a new drug to everybody, so everybody was trying it. So
you've tried it, haven't you?
oh yeah,
Everybody
no doubt.
has. I mean, I'm not throwing you out there. I mean,
No, I'll tell you. I mean, I have, and I hope they get a handle on it this year. 'Cause it did. It caused a good bit of drama last year, and it made some people that ain't as good as they look to be. It made them better than what they really are, and then so I don't know. They just need to get a handle on it. If not, just open it up and let's all dope them.
or maybe, okay, maybe I shouldn't say it, but this is all just picking it fun. Maybe that's what the method to the madness was for 36 jail these years, and now everybody's on to what he had, so everybody's on the even playing field.
Look,
No,
everybody.
I'm clowning, man.
Oh, I know you are, but everybody used to, come to me because me and Justin's been friends, and I guess they thought, they asking me if, trying to get information on what Justin's doing, and for if he's cheating or if he ain't cheating, and I always told him. They asked me if he was cheating, and I say I hope that some bitch is cheating because I hope he ain't that much better than us.
I'll tell you what. All right. Well, I mentioned earlier we were going to segue. We were going to talk a little bit about Justin because, gosh damn. I mean, it is. I mean, look, I don't like to. Okay, I'll just say it like this. You got to give credit when credit's due, and that's what I've said. I've interviewed him more than any driver probably in Victorland over the last 10 years than any other driver, but that's because the son of a bitch wins constantly. And I mean, it is, after a while, it never got tiring for me, but it's like, man, sometimes, maybe it'd be cool to talk to a different guy, but Justin's always been so humble, and he really seems to want to help anybody who does ask him if they actually know how to approach him. I think a lot of folks get Justin wrong, don't they? I mean,
They do that. And I'm not gonna lie. The first time I ever met Justin Whitehead was at Sterlington, and I I told him on the way home. I said he acts like a little stuck up little prick, and that's the vibe I got from him.
mm-hmm.
And then I ended up buying a car from him, and he's been one of my best friends since then. And I'm like, I had him all wrong, and I think a lot of people do have him. Just they don't. Once you get to know him, he really is
And
a really good dude.
you hate to mention Jeff Gordon and a guy like Justin Whitehead, but I mean, and there are some similar stances here because when the guy's winning so much, I mean, I can remember when Jeff was taking the reins over from Dale Earnhardt, in NASCAR back in the '90s and early 2000s, and people would boo the shit out of Jeff Gordon. I mean, I've seen people literally just rain hell on Justin in victory lane. You cheating son of, just, I mean, really, I mean, hecklers, and I guess that but that's kind of what makes our sport great, right? I mean, you're not supposed to love every driver out there, and I mean, I'm sure, I think for a little while it kind of maybe bothered Justin, but I mean, he's just kind of stuck to his guns and done what he's done. I mean, he just continues to win races, and after a while, as you've seen the tide start to turn, just like with Jeff Gordon towards the latter, the end part of his career, there's starting to be respect shown. You know what I mean? Because it's a sustained amount of greatness. And from my brother who raced in the factory stock division for several years, Bubba, you've been in it for quite some time. I mean, I've talked to David and Daryl, who you've raced with door to door over the years down in Manny to up here. I mean, to anyone. And this isn't a rain on Justin parade or shower him with praise, because he's still currently in this run of dominance he's been on. But Bubba, we're talking since 2012. This guy has not let up and given anyone shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, he literally. I mean, it is. I'm not kidding you. I would always hear my father talk to me about Ronnie Adams, and he'd talk about Ray and Doug Ingalls and these guys dominating at Hilltop and Boot Hill and these other tracks, and he would tell me about Gary Wright. And I go back to 2012, Bubba, and I said to Justin in Victor Lane when he won the Classic at that time, Lord knows I didn't think that he'd go win it 5 more times. Now he's an 8-time Cajun Classic winner.
I know.
But I said to him, Bubba, I said, you're from Hooks, Texas. Gary Wright is from Hooks, Texas, who's the all-time winningest ASCS driver. But, it's kind of cool to back up kind of that history in your hometown. Wasn't necessarily comparing them as drivers, but Justin humbly said, you can never compare me to Gary Wright. And I kind of brought that back full circle to him when he won the Classic for the 8th time down there. I said, look, man, you told me in 2012 you can't compare you to Gary Wright, but I don't know what's going. I don't know what you got in the water over there, man. But this run has been impressive, and I think that's how we'll look at it. I'm kind of being a chatty Cathy on that subject, but we'll look at this run of dominance, I think, in the similar way that my dad and people around the Ark-La-Tex looked at Ronnie Adams' run of dominance, in the super late models and the late 90s, early 2000s, and Doug Ingalls. It's pretty damn impressive, man, what he's been able to do, isn't it?
Yeah, there's no doubt. And, and for some reason, a lot of people don't like winners.
Mm-hmm.
You hear people all the time, I hate Tom Brady. Well, what's Tom Brady done? But win.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't like winners for some reason. And, it did start bothering Justin, 4 or 5 years ago. And me and him was talking about it, and I told him, I said, I can fix all your problems.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, how? I said, start losing. He said, no. And that's just, another prime example is, before last year, you never heard Neil Kemp's name.
Yeah.
Well, now that he's won some big races, not many, but I hear a few people, start talking about Neil, and I'm like, I wasn't talking about him last year, year before last when he was losing.
You look at that grandstand at Boot Hill Speedway on the lap number 46 of that 50-lap affair when he took the lead away from Justin Whitehead, which was impressive that Justin was about to try to win that race for the 3rd consecutive year when he was driving Andrew Rossum's car. I mean, I get it. It's an outlaw race car, this, that. But, I mean, Justin was literally 4 laps away from winning that event for the 3rd consecutive year, and Neil took it from him. Man, the grandstands erupted. I mean, it was no doubt.
I mean, it was good.
Knoxville,
It was good for the the sport. I mean, it's like anybody. They want to see the one that's been winning all the time get beat, and I mean that's just the way it is. But what I tell people all the time is, if you hear the name of our class and it's called factory stock, well then. Mm-hmm. People that don't know nothing about racing, they think that's just an old bomber, which in a beginner class, but what they don't realize is this is one of the toughest classes around, mm-hmm. with the most talented drivers in it. And mm-hmm. for Justin to dominate in this class where everybody is so dang equal, yes. it really says a lot.
Yeah. It's
like, it's not easy to win. It ain't easy to win at a local track with 10 cars there. It's like it's tough. It's no more easy wins. So for him to dominate like that, really, it really means a lot, you know.
Isn't that some of the intrigue for a racer like you, though, to show up and challenge him? I mean, aren't you happier whenever he's in the pit area? And I'm sure you would feel a lot more gratified if he is in the pits and you scored a victory that night.
Oh, I don't. To be honest with you, I don't even want to race at a racetrack that he ain't there. Because I mean, to be the man, you got to beat the man.
Look, man, and I know we kind of indirectly mentioned this driver, and I'm not saying he did or didn't, but Sean Graham, look, this is a guy who spent years in the factory stock class, and I know you and Sean are friends. To my knowledge, he's been racing these stock cars since 2008, or I'm sorry, 2005. And I mean, he hit on something last year, and you know, I like to say, you know, it goes in waves, man. You got to give credit when credit's due. I mean, a lot of it, I'm sure, is a lot of the knowledge that he's obtained over the years. But I can tell you, man, conversations that I've even had with guys like you, my brother when he was racing, so many guys are just standing around the pit scratching their head, like, what is it? Like, what? I mean, this guy is just, I mean, but we show up every week and try to win. And Sean has been hell bent, bound, and determined, just like anyone else. You know, I can't say that anyone else around hasn't been as determined as Sean has. But I think that Sean was the one who felt maybe gratified as far as the classic's concerned. You know, that maybe he was a new face to get to Victor Lane. But I mean, that's just one driver I know particularly. Man, I'm here to beat the 36J car. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, yeah. Sean's and Sean was really fast last year. He like I got to give him credit too. He and I told him 4 or 5 years ago if he'd ever calm his little crazy ass down, he would be fast.
Yeah.
And and I don't know if he's calmed down yet. I don't think he has, but he was really fast last year.
Yeah, well, I mean, he has a moniker Trouble or the Hitman, so you know what? You got to live up to those kind of monikers. But you know, a little bit. One more thing, I guess, a segue from Justin Whitehead is, despite his dominance, though, hasn't he in many ways helped build and keep the class together as much as some would say the exact opposite, that he's kind of been a detractor, or not a detractor, sorry, that he's kind of. I can't tell you how many times, you know, stupid message boards or comment sections on social media. You know this, Bubba, where people are just talking about the demise of the factory stock class. You know, Justin Whitehead's killing the class. You know, it's. I mean, I think that he's actually helped maintain it and keep it together.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen him do a lot for our class. You know, putting on races, and you know when they did the little points deal, like he didn't get nothing out of that. You know.
Right. Yeah.
He just did that to have something to do and help out. And I don't think our class is getting killed by nobody. I mean, you go to Boot Hill and Ark-La-Tex on a regular night show and we got 60. So
yeah, my only concern, and I don't mean anything I don't mean any disrespect to any of the touring or sanctioning bodies out there, but I've kind of said, for what it's worth, if my opinion ever mattered, I've only been calling these races for the last 13 years. I mean, again, I'm just a guy. I'm just a commentator, right? But I might know a couple things, but my opinion really doesn't necessarily matter as far as what the sanctionings and goes. But I say, if it ain't broke, don't if it's not broke, you don't have to fix it. I don't know how you feel about all the sanctioning, but it seems like it's kind of more and more you're starting to see, the USRA banner. The IMCA deal hasn't really been in this area, and which that IMCA stock car deal is, it's competitive and they're fun to watch. It's not really down in our neck of the woods, but the USRA stock car thing is kind of seemingly branching out. Like, you're going to be running that this weekend.
Yeah, and they've kind of changed. That they own a little different motor than us, so I really wish it wouldn't get split up like that. But I think it's going to hurt them worse than it hurts us, because honestly, I think our cars can run with them, but they're not going to be able to come run the big shows over here because their rules don't match.
Yeah, that's what I don't necessarily like, because.
But on the other hand, I wish we was some type of sanction around here, because I think it'd be cool to kind of run for like the national points like they do. But I don't want them to change the rules and split everybody up to do that.
Right.
But I think we got a good rule package, and I don't really understand why they're changing it, but I'm not a series director either.
Yeah, I don't know anything about all that shit.
I ain't either. We're going we're gonna go size them up this weekend and see what they got.
Absolutely. Um, just a few more quick things. Do you pay attention? Do you watch the races when you're at the track, or if you're not on the track, are you typically at your trailer?
Yes, I am.
Yeah. But do you, as far as on the racetrack though, do who who's a who's a guy? I don't know how to word this exactly. One time, was it David Roy? No, well, not David Roy. Man, you know my memory doesn't slip me too often. Oh, Ryan Burke told me. I rode with Ryan Burke, passenger. This is back in 2010 in the Ark-La-Tex Championship, and we were lined up right behind Derek Daniel, 2007 Ark-La-Tex Speedway Factory Stock Track Champion. Derek's, very respectable driver. He's been at it for quite some time. Been off and on the last several years. But Ryan told me, he said, I hate starting behind this son of a bitch. Words verbatim. And and that's no disrespect to Derek. He just friendly banter, right? And he said he is the hardest guy to pass, which is actually respect to Derek, right? Is there a guy out there like you're lined up behind him, and you don't have to sugarcoat anything. I mean, is there a guy you're like, damn, I gotta start behind this son of a gun again? Like, is there anybody out there for you that, like, I mean, maybe y'all just seem to always get together on the track? I mean, is there somebody like that for the 21?
Honestly, I and me and him's friends, but I don't like being around Sean. Because it seems like trouble follows Sean, and usually you're caught up in it.
Yeah.
So I just rather him get away from me.
Yeah, well, I'm sure you coasted through on a couple laps into a heat race down in Manny. And Sean, I love you, but he was on top of Jared's air cleaner in Manny one night. Jared had a really good hot rod, but ended up.
Well, you remember we had a little run in this year at Ark-La-Tex when he was sitting under the flag stand.
Yeah, I wasn't in attendance that night. I was not in attendance. No, I was at a different area track, I believe. But yeah, that's an interesting one to say the least. But yeah, he went off on. I think old Jared Clark went off on William Izard's tow chain that night. So. Anyway, but oh man, it's been a good conversation with you, man. Like I said, it was just kind of unscripted, just off the cuff, and that's kind of what what I intend on doing here. Just a couple friends talking. We've been friends, for quite some time, but we don't catch up probably as often as I'd like to. But at the races, I can always. I think anyone who knows you knows that you're a damn good time and you're loyal and a good friend, but you're also a damn good racer, man. And I think that folks respect that about you. They love being around you because you're fun. Have a couple beers. I don't give you too much credit, man. All right, calm down. But no, I mean, but they know you're a good time, but you're about your business on the racetrack too, man. And I think that that's something to be respected, man. So, as long as you're able to enjoy it, man, enjoy the shit out of it, man, because you're only going to be in this time of your life for this time of your life, so enjoy it.
No doubt. One thing about it, we may not win every race, but we're going to have a good time.
Absolutely. And so what's the best race? Do we still party at the races anymore? I mean,
I do.
I know that. Hey, that's one thing for sure. Like, Cortland Smith, he don't drink a drop, but by God, he gonna be up till 5:30 in the morning and having a good time with you. You know what I mean? There's just those ones, and I hate to volunteer myself into that category, but I might be hanging around for a little while. Maybe not last year. Priorities have changed just a little bit, but those are the fun times, right? Like the multi-day races. I mean, that's you bring the RV to the track. I mean, those are times that you can only live those once, man.
Yeah, I mean, to me, that's don't get me wrong, we all race to, race and win, but just, the good times and the hanging out and being with all your friends, and that's a big part of it too.
Mm-hmm. Real quick, what are your thoughts on Bristol?
Oh, wide open. Whoever starts on the front row is gonna win.
Yeah, boy, there's gonna be a lot of pop goes the weasels out there, I believe. A lot of power plants expired, but hey.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of motors, but I mean, I'm excited to see it though. It's it's Bristol.
Absolutely, and I was going to mention this all the way at the beginning of the podcast. How the hell did you? Okay, we know it's kind of a redneck Southern thing, but Bubba Jones. I know that you're a junior. We said we mentioned your father, Charles Jones Sr. You're Charles Jones Jr. Matter of fact, you remember several years ago when, and I don't know why the hell we were saying it, but calling you Chuck Jones. Remember
Yeah.
that? Chuck. But old Chuck Jones out there in the 21 car. B21 now in 2021. But how you have an older sister, but you're Bubba Jones, and how did that kind of come about? Just because you're Bubba, having an older sister, or what?
To be honest with you, I'm gonna have to ask my mama and get back with y'all because I don't know. I have no idea why I'm called Bubba. I guess it's just a redneck thing.
Well, I know Miss Carolyn. Well, we won't tell folks what time. I mean, who gives a damn? It's 2:08. We're recording this here a little bit late, using the shop, getting ready to rock and roll. And I mean, why not? You get in the car, ready to go. What were the last few minutes things? I was gonna say we'd call Miss Carolyn, but we don't want to wake her up at this time of the evening. We do have three-way on speed dial, but we ain't gonna pull. You ain't gonna pull a fast one on her at this time of the night. But what were you doing to the car this evening, getting ready for RPM?
Just going over everything and making sure everything's ready to go.
Well, man, I'll make you a deal. If you win this weekend, then this March next year, then you'll just come on and we'll have another, have a good conversation, and it'll kickstart your year. I wish you best things in 2021, man. I appreciate your friendship. Appreciate what a great driver you are on the racetrack. Like I said, I won't shout you too much praise, my friend. No, but seriously, it's always been a pleasure to call your races, man. And I do appreciate your friendship and the great job you put down on the racetrack, man. I've always said that my job is as fun as you racers make it, man. It's always been about you guys for me. It's never been about Zach Clark. I've always been about the on-track product. I've been fortunate to receive a lot of praise for how I approach my job, but it's because of what you guys do, man. Y'all make my job fun, and until that fire burns out, man, then I'll continue to do it, and that's why, man, because racers like you who put it out there on the line and risk a lot, man, and put your hard-earned money into it, man. So on behalf of everybody who happens to listen to this, I'm sure that they feel the same way I do. Bubba, appreciate your time and all the hard left turns and the blood, sweat, and tears you pour into this sport that we love so dearly, my friend.
I appreciate you having me, and also I appreciate all you do. And like I know the races make the races interesting, but so does the announcer. And then when you ain't there, it don't even seem the same. So we appreciate your hard work.
I appreciate you, brother. Have a good night, man, and best of luck at RPM Speedway over in Crandall, Texas this weekend. I'm sure if somebody wants to give you a modified ride, you go give it a shot for $20,000 this weekend, won't you?
I would.
Why the hell not? K Dillard ain't got one for you?
Well, I don't know.
Well, he's gonna be at Duck River Saturday night. Maybe you sneak over to Rovaline and see if you can't. You know what I mean?
I think he's done sold them all.
Yeah. Hey, that was gonna be another topic, but I guess we'll talk about that some other day. Hey, just real quick, it's hard not to be proud of K Dillard, isn't it?
I'm super pumped for him. He's come from racing that Manny to on top of the racing world now, so he's really doing good for himself.
And done it the right way at that, from Chris Brown to from the LG21, and here I go again. But yeah, he really has.
His shop's right down the road from my house, and you never pass that shop, and he's not there working on it.
He's paid his dues. He's really truly paid his dues, and I think a lot of folks get that misconstrued about K Dillard and I'm not sure that many people do. I think a lot of folks realize how humble and fortunate Kate is, and they see that by how emotional he typically gets in his interviews. His big 15,000 win at Vado last year, World of Outlaws, but said
when he I had somebody tell me the other day, Kate's had everything handed to him, and
so crazy.
That's so far from the truth. I can remember when he started racing USNTS, I went with him, and we had I think the air hose was 6 feet long is all we had.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to air the front tires up. He had to get in the car and turn the car around and back it in there, and we'd have the rear tires up and he'd go race.
Listen, man.
So no, he's not had nothing handed to him. He's worked for everything.
I'm sure that I think Tyler Roark.
Yeah.
Who was it? I think you were there that weekend. I was fortunate to stay with Cade the week in 2014 when he was driving his Sidebiter. He won the U.S. National Dirt Track or the World Dirt Track Championship at Texas Motor Speedway's dirt track. And I mean, he ran his best lap of that race on lap 40 of 40 laps, and I'll never forget it. And Sanders and Hughes were 2 and 3. and he would eventually go on to race Jason Hughes for a USMTS National Championship. But yeah, man, look, Cade Diller's a topic of conversation, but he is something for Louisiana guys, and for folks around the Ark-La-Tex to be very proud of, man. He's represent this area very well. And man, look, this is something I did want to talk with you about a little bit more in depth. Dude, we have such rich racing history in the Ark-La-Tex, don't we? I mean,
I know it's
holy
crazy.
smokes, people don't realize, dude. Like guys used to come here. I mean, like Larry Phillips, Terry's dad. I mean, Kelly Shryock. I'm getting in deep thought here, but I mean, Ronnie Adams was once ranked the number 36 driver out of 1,656 drivers in a big time publication out of Iowa. I mean, Ronnie used to be on top. I mean, Doug Ingles, he's a National Dirt Late Model Hall of Famer. Dude, look, I could go on and on. And these are the kind of things I love talking about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Our rich racing history is something that cannot be forgotten in this area. And it needs to probably be talked about a little bit more. And, man,
it really is. I mean, there's some of the best drivers is right here local, and I've seen, what Cade's done, and I've seen Chris Hennigan lap Jason Hughes at Ark-La-Tex one year.
Yes.
That's just crazy.
Yeah, he was on an absolute rail. He was in that skyrocket car, USMTS, but then again, the following year, watch Rodney Sanders start 18th and lap up to sixth place. And that's when he went on his tear in that MB Custom deal. That was when him and Jimmy Mars had first kind of formed that alliance. And then, of course, Cade's had so much success in the Mars race cars. And that's, here we are talking a little bit longer. I hope I'm not keeping you too much. I hope I'm not keeping too much of your time.
No, you're good.
But this is kind of the deal with the podcast. Like, I'm not here to just sit there and set times and timestamps, man. Like, we're here to talk a little bit of racing, And if you don't like it, then you can turn it off, right? Like, it's just kind of how it goes. But, and I'm sure I'll edit a little bit. No, I probably won't. But don't you think, real quick, you thought you was finna go to bed, didn't you? Because don't you think it's pretty cool, though, for Cade, for him to have stuck with Mars race cars through his USMTS or his modified reign? He went through, like, that impressive chassis for several years, back when he's in that blue 97 car. He's been in quite a few different cars, like I said, the LG21 for Chris Brown. But where he really started having a lot of success when he formed that alliance with Shane and Shelley with SNS Fishing and Rental. But for him to kind of stick with his guns with the Mars race car and kind of be tabbed as the house car driver for Jimmy in a way. He's got AJ Demel and a lot of other guys up there at Cedar Lake in that area, and Jimmy Mars, of course, still fielding the house car. But Jimmy really, really puts a lot of stock in Cade. Cade was third last year in World of Outlaws points. I think that's really badass that Cade hadn't just went and got the hot commodity like the Rocket XR1. He's helped build Mars race cars into and I'm not saying it wasn't a reputable chassis manufacturer before, but I think that's really, really cool, man. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and that's one thing that makes it even better is he has done it in MB, and MB probably made him look really good in the mod because they had the mod figured out, but MB wasn't, top of the line and late model. Everybody wants a Rocket, and they gave Cade stuck with his guns. He did good in the MB and in the mod, and now I don't know if he. I've asked him before. I said, if you had a chance to, get a Rocket, well, would you change? And he said no. He said MB's my car.
Loyalty. That's the whole point. That was really the point that I was trying to make, Bubba, was loyalty is almost unheard of in this industry now. You see so many guys, like, and this is no offense to Mike Marlar, but my gosh, like, how many different chassis has he driven in the last several years? He's a World of Outlaws champion. Mike Marlar is one of the baddest ass late model drivers in the country. Doesn't matter what he wills, but man, that dude is hot behind. He's been memorizing the State Fair, Louisiana. Trust me. But I'm telling you, and that's not a knock on him. He's just driving what I'm sure his car owner Ronnie Delk's giving him, right? But I think that's kind of a lost art nowadays in late model racing. Everybody wants to go with the hot commodity. Oh, the Longhorn's on right now, right? The Bilstein shocks, you know.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's monkey see, monkey do. You know, if somebody starts winning in this chassis, and you know everybody wants to go get that one, and like I say, you know that wasn't easy on Cade. You know, yeah, if he would have started off in a rocket, I felt like
mm-hmm,
he would have probably did better quicker.
mm-hmm.
But you know, he was one of the few that has loyalty in the racing world, and he's stuck with the MB, and shit, he's got it just as fast as the Rocket, the Longhorn, and everything else now. You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, Rodney Sanders started off his career in a Hughes chassis where he won his first one. I don't know if you know this or not, and this isn't a pat on old Zach Clark's back, but, you know, I interviewed Rodney Sanders in Lamont, Missouri, his first ever USMTS modified win, June the 26th, 2009. He was driving a Hughes chassis at LA Raceway. And it's always interesting because he just won his 100th at the end of last year. That dude there is an assassin behind the wheel, but, you know, similar to Sanders.
He is. When they come to Boot Hill last year, that was unbelievable what he done.
Yeah, Rodney's he's a hell of a driver, man, and it's always interesting to me to watch a racer's natural progression. You know, like I know this is really a crazy comparison, and because I don't even watch NASCAR, but I pay attention enough. I stay in tune or on tap, kind of what's going on. I have not focused or paid much attention at all to what's going on in NASCAR, but before I quit really paying attention, Joey Logano, right, like Joe Gibbs, you know what I mean? But then you start watching a driver just start pushing his natural progression, right? But that's kind of with Sanders. It took Sanders a little while to get that first dub, and it took him a while to get that championship. But man, you know, once you get over that hump, kind of similar to Cade, it took him. He didn't get that first win up in Iowa, first USMTS win, until almost a year and a half on the tour. He won Rookie of the Year 2014 and or 2015 rather, but and he's gone on to win 15 of them. But they always say once the first one comes, the rest of them come easy. I don't know if I agree with that or not.
I don't think any of them come easy. Yeah.
Yeah, it's I guess it's the confidence to know that you can run and beat those guys. But anyway, man, I tell you what, you're going to get to see a hell of a show this weekend. I'm kind of envious of you. I missed the days of calling Todd Stilly and seeing if I can't come call a race or two. But anyway, not say that.
Who you picking this weekend?
Well, we know guy's not going to sweep it. It's two separate shows, 10,000 a win. I text messaged Chris Hennigan today, and I say this because Chris Hennigan won $5,000 at the Ronnie Sigmund Memorial at Kevin Rogers RPM Speedway over there in beautiful Crandall, Texas last year over a star-studded field. And you know as well as I know, you've already mentioned him, he didn't get the name Winnigan Hennigan for no fucking reason, right? The dude's an assassin. I mean, they're coming to his home state in Texas. RPM's not necessarily in his wheelhouse, but let me tell you something. Circles going around in quarter-mile bull ring racetracks are in Chris Hennigan's effing wheelhouse, right?
You can't never count him out.
Listen, hey, cuz how many people have you seen go to Lone Star Speedway and start 16th? And I mean, look, that's Jason Ingles' backyard, right? Like, cuz come on through there from 16th and won the main event. I mean, Chris Hennigan's been dialed up on something in Kilgore. RPM Kilgore, not necessarily anything that translates. Point of the matter here is that Chris Hennigan is still and has always been an absolute assassin behind the wheel of a race car. I messaged him today, and he said, man, I've been so backed up, he's not sure he's going to make it. And I'm thinking to myself, if this dude here is not... he said he just got back from Florida, and his car was still not ready. If Chris Hennigan has his car ready and he shows up on an open trailer or whatever with one sock on, he still puts his fire suit on one leg at a time. I'm going to get Chris Hennigan to win one of them because he's money hungry. And he's got kids to feed, and Dustin's in high school, and I know it's silly, stupid, but really, Chris Hennigan's he's going to get one of them if he shows up this weekend. I feel that he's been long overdue for another one, and I think Terry Phillips will win the other one.
That wouldn't surprise me.
You know why I picked Terry? Because when he beat Kelly Shryock at the Doug Murphy Memorial for $10,000, he said, the way I look at it is big time racing. And I'm going to tell you something right now, Bubba Jones. By any means necessary, if you got $10,000 on the line, You better bet your hard-earned dollar Terry Phillips coming through for it. He's swinging all the way to the fences, and he don't care if he hurts your feelings or not.
I remember that race at Ark-La-Tex. That was a good one.
I'll never forget it. It's got like 250,000 views, courtesy of Mystic Soccer, my good friend Chrissy Smith. This is before the RaceOnTexas days, but it's on there. The whole altercation, me standing underneath the flag stand, under the Kenny's toe and flag stand, looking puzzled as to what the hell's going on, who's won the race, who's disqualified, thinking Kelly Schrock's finna get a pop knot upside his head or vice versa. I mean, that shit was mayhem, dude. That will always, dude. And I wish that race would have been broadcasted. I will never forget. That's one of my all-time favorite races. Was that Doug Murphy Memorial that Terry Phillips won?
Yeah, it was good. I'm going to go back and watch it.
Yeah, it's on there for sure. But anyway, man, Bubba, I appreciate the time, man. Feels like probably 30 minutes ago that I thought we were going to sign off, but appreciate your time. We're just a little over an hour. Always good to talk racing with you, man. Like I said, wish you all the best, and maybe you'll get you a dub this weekend, and you get to come back to Louisiana with a smile on your face and maybe a few extra bones richer, brother.
All right. Thank you, Zach.
All right, man. Have a good night.
All right.